Alrighty, y'all. Hope everyone's doing good today. And in this video, we're gonna be talking about rosin.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
So more specifically, at least in this video, we'll kind of talk about hash rosin, because really rosin is just heat, pressure, and cannabis. And really it's not that difficult to explain, but when it comes to hash rosin, it's definitely a lot more complex and you can get a lot of different results. Like rosin, with hash rosin, you still need good herb. But at the same time, you can never judge a book by its cover, because at least when it comes to water hash and hash rosin, you may not get the best yield if the bud, looks super trichomy and super frosty and all that. You may not actually get the best yield out of it. For all you know, you may get a better yield from a bud that looks okay. And it's kind of crazy with hash rosin, because this process is so much more complex, it actually costs you a lot more as well. I mean, depending on the grade of the hash rosin, it can be anywhere from like $80 to $140. Like, obviously that's a big range, but with cannabis, there's a lot of different qualities. So as for the two types of hash that they use for hash rosin, it's ice water hash, which really more than likely, I'd say probably 99.9% of the time, hash makers are going to be using ice water hash for their hash rosin. But the other one is dry sift, and that is basically just kind of, the classic way of getting hash. They take a drum that has a screen on the bottom, or they have just a big screen table, and they basically just, break down the buds and they just sift out the hash. It's kind of like Keith, yeah, but in this case, because the trichome heads and the glands are a lot more intact, and because it's so fresh, it's definitely gonna be more like hash, because when you pick it up, it's definitely gonna be a lot more sticky than it would be if you were to handle with Keith, because it's been dried and cured. And also, to let you guys know what ice water hash is it's basically putting all of your plant material into a washing machine with ice and water, and then it just swishes it all around. Some people use oars or paddles, other people use automated systems that just do it all itself, which honestly is pretty cool. I haven't actually seen one in person, but these machines are crazy. They can go counterclockwise or clockwise, and you can set it for it to make 2 or 3 revolutions and then go the other way. It's kind of crazy, honestly. And with ice water hash, you're able to break off those trichome heads a lot more consistently, because the way they agitate the buds and the plant material, it does it so where it gets it almost perfect every time. And then, thus going into the filtration process, it goes through micron bags, which filters out all of the plant material. And the higher the micron number, the more open the holes are, and then the lower you go, the more tighter the mesh gets. There are different hash makers that make a 90U, a 73, and a full spectrum, but more than likely, in that full spectrum, they're not gonna be using that 73 or the 90, I can just tell you that. And then if you were really to only get just a single micron hash, you really won't get as much taste or full spectrum effect out of it, which is the reason why a lot more people like to use full spectrum hash in order to make their hash rosin, because that taste and the effect translates over. So for most full spectrum hash, it's going to be anywhere between 145 to about the 25 range. But really, those ranges can all depend on the hash maker themselves, because the highest amount is really not going to get you a good yield, and the very lowest amount will not get you a good yield at all, really, because by the time the wash gets down there, there's pretty much little to nothing. Because really between the 70 to 90 micron range is really where you get most of your yield, about 70% of it. And a lot of hash makers, they will just take off some of the top ones and the bottom ones and then use kind of everything else in between. The reasoning for this is because with the 145, like 150 range, even higher, the look of it is a lot more green because it has a lot more of the bigger plant material in there. So it's obviously not gonna look the best because people are more so looking for a like whiter looking crumbly consistency. And that's really where you get it from the 70 to 90 range. So it's more than likely that they're not including every single micron bag that they use, but they're only doing so in order to maintain quality. So like I was saying before, how some strains don't really wash as well, there's actually a test that some hash makers do, and it's basically just using a mason jar and putting in a ½ ounce of flour, then ice and water, and then kind of mixing it all around. If you see the trichome heads fall off, then you got some good bud. But if you see them kind of breaking off or the stalks kind of breaking off halfway, then it's not typically what you're looking for. And of course, most of the time, these hash makers are going to be using live product. And live basically means as soon as a flower is harvested, they throw it right into a freezer, basically. Or they just freeze it at sub-zero temperatures so it keeps all of the terpenes, it keeps all of the cannabinoids and everything else intact as much as possible. Because if you were to just let it sit out and cure, you will be losing most of that taste and the effect. So I didn't even realize that there were even more forms of rosin. There is a mechanical separation, which basically is still rosin. They've just extracted some THCA crystals from it. Or they extracted the THCA, which turned into THCA crystals, and there you go. So it almost looks like a nice, like, sappy rosin with some diamonds in there, which is kind of crazy. I'll probably show you guys a picture somewhere because I got this off of High Times as far as this article goes. So shout out to High Times for interviewing 4 pretty knowledgeable hash makers and providing us with this knowledge. And the other method is called jar tech, which basically makes the rosin look like a sauce. And it's kind of crazy because I didn't even know that rosin can come in different consistencies like that. And then for you to make a rosin and then turn it into a sauce, that's pretty cool. So I think that's pretty much all that I wanted to talk about, at least for rosin anyway. If you guys can get your hands on it, definitely try it out. It can be pretty expensive. Like I said, it can be anywhere from $80 to $140 plus. So if you are able to find some for a good price, hopefully not too cheap, because you know sometimes prices are too good to be true, but if you're able to find some good hash rosin, definitely go out there and go try it. And I'm also not promoting any underage or illegal use, but yeah. But if you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all that good stuff. And actually today is Friday, so every Friday we actually do a conversation at 4:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where me and the community have a conversation about the various topics that are in the cannabis industry, as well as they ask me their cannabis related questions, and me as your Emainey cannabis consultant will do my best to answer them. So alrighty y'all, if I don't see you in a few hours, then I'll see y'all in the next video. Deuces.